Okay, welcome back to the Now That's Weird radio show on TV. It's me, Ross Hemsworth, and with me is Mary Rodwell from Australia. Mary, welcome to the programme.
Hello, Ross. Nice to be here.
The last time you and I met, I think, was at the Irish UFO conference, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a great conference a couple of years ago now.
That sort of says to me you're doing a lot of travelling then. If you're from Australia and you're in America today, you were in Ireland then, you were in Blackpool after that.
Yes, I get around, which is lots of fun.
Now, you are a hypnotist by trade, is that right, or have I got that wrong?
I do hypnotherapy, but I am actually a trained nurse midwife, and about 25 years ago I trained as a counsellor. So I think I've done more counselling and hypnotherapy than I ever have done nursing, but really now I combine that as a researcher.
Okay, now it's the hypnotherapy that led you into the alien abduction phenomena, isn't it? So tell us about how you got started with that and how the two things came together.
Well, with hypnotherapy, you're able to find more of what's been going on with someone on a deeper level. And for many people who have encounter experiences, which is the term I prefer to use, an abductee, is that when they've got something like missing time, they may have seen bright lights on a journey and found out that the journey took them half an hour or an hour longer than it should. They've got no recollection of why. They may be slightly confused, a bit disorientated. When they come to me, they're saying, look, I don't know what happened, but I know something happened. So with hypnosis, you can obviously take them to an altered state, and you generally can then start to explore what might have happened in that hour or that half an hour that they've had missing time. And we usually go back to the time where perhaps they've seen something unusual. And from that, they'll recall, not from a conscious level, but from an altered state, and that subconscious will start to describe something that happened. It may be they see some ETs floating towards them. They may see actually them walking out and not being really aware, like they're in a kind of daze, and then they will feel themselves being taken up into a craft. And from that, there may be something that's happened on the craft, like a medical procedure or whatever. And what I also have found, that if you actually ask the right questions, you can actually find out what that medical procedure was for. And many times that makes a great deal of sense to the person who's had the experience, and enormously changes the way they may perceive the whole experience in itself.
Now, what was your first thoughts when somebody come in and you started to hear this stuff? Because at the time, this must have been quite a shock to you to hear that someone was going through that kind of procedure.
Well, initially I'd read a certain couple of books on this whole contact experience. Dr. John Mack, who was a former psychiatrist at Harvard University. His book Abduction was a wonderful book for me, because as a therapist it gave me the therapeutic understanding that he'd done the psychological testing. He found out that these people were quite sane, going through all the different tests. And the actual experience in communion with Whitley Strieber was actually showing it me from the other perspective. So I had a sort of overview, but not in-depth information until I started working with people with experiences. And then when you start to hear the cases and their experiences, and you start to look at the patterns, you start to realize that it's each time you get that little bit more information in trying to understand what is exactly going on. Why are people having these encounters? What does it mean? How does it change them? And all of those things became enormously fascinating for me, because people were coming to me for answers. So in fact, the more I did, the more I understood, the more I could offer information and understanding to those that came to me. And it's been a wonderful journey.
Now tell us what you're going to be talking about this week here at UFO Congress.
Well, I'm stepping it up a bit. I think there's enough now known about the standard encounter experience, and for a lot of people, you know, where that sort of takes them in terms of, yes, we're being contacted by a number of advanced intelligences. That's as far as I'm concerned now, is a given. After 1,600 cases, what I'm discovering is actually something to me that's very, very intriguing. Is, okay, so why is this going on? What are these intelligences wanting from us? Why are we interacting with them? All the big things of, what does this mean? You know, everybody ultimately wants to know those big questions. Where are we going? What does this mean for the human race? Are they here to take over the planet, which unfortunately a majority of people, as a paranoid planet that we are, seem to think that that's the case, when in reality that may not be the case. And certainly the evidence that I'm getting from my clients is that is not the case at all. What they're finding is that we are a hybrid species, that we have been specially engineered by a number of these advanced intelligences. We have in our genes 223 genes that are a sideways insertion of genetic material that are all to do with higher psychological functioning that the scientists can't explain. So who put them there? This is the intriguing question, and all to do with higher psychological functioning. These beings take genetic material, but apart from that, what I've discovered, which is absolutely fascinating, is that they're educating us on those craft. They're actually teaching us quantum physics, the origin of the species, cosmology, healing. The list is actually incredibly fascinating. So why are they doing that? Not only are they assisting us with upgrading our genes, our genetic makeup, and giving us abilities, more psychic, intuitive abilities, but they're also educating us to handle those abilities, I believe. But on top of that, these new children that are coming in, as I call them, the new human, star kids, indigos, crystal children, all of these different names metaphysical groups are calling them. But what I'm seeing is they're a kind of upgrade of what we are. And what they're doing is bringing in new information, new understanding, and new abilities for what I believe is an evolution of our species. And not only that, what I'll be talking about on Thursday too is that what I'm discovering is that they are working not just on a physical, emotional and psychological level, but on a spiritual level as much as they're actually working in the dimensions of soul. So this covers so many different areas and is really exciting, because if this is the case, we are going to understand our connection to them, not only our connection to them, their connection to us, and there's no such thing as an us and them.